No countdown today as Jack gets a face full of food here. It is NFL game day. It is also Boxing Day for those of you who celebrate. And it is a beautiful day here in Nashville. I don't know about the weather in Atlanta, but that doesn't matter because you are going to a domed stadium today. Lions versus Falcons. And I think it's not the sicko game of the day, but it's very close.
I mean, here's my thought on it. Sorry, my contact just fell out. But
and I went to a Titans-Texans game in the pouring rain. So I understand sicko football.
Here's the thing. There are multiple sicko games today. Sicko games are not relegated to just one game. Because if you look at the lineup and you see them, which games would I love to go to? And if any thought in your head pops up, Giants, Eagles, Jags, Jets, or Falcons, Lions, you, my friend, are a sicko. So, sadly, those three games are all real, and they will be happening, and they do scare me. But we have to pick them anyway. So we're going to get to that later when we get around to our picks. But, yeah, there's a lot of bad football on today, but there's also a lot of good football. So we're going to highlight that too. But we did have a lot of fun. I know hopefully everyone has had a very Merry Christmas as well. Happy Boxing Day to everyone as well who celebrates. But I'm just very excited to talk about late season football because that's always fun football to talk about. When things finally get down to the wire, things are finally counting, really. And the best way to start that off is with a look at our playoff picture. I know we've been over this a lot in previous years, but we're going to continue to go through that. This is actually our third time going through all this stuff, thinking all the way back to October through the end of the year 2019 when we started this. The third time going through, and we got our divisional look. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this up because this always tends to be the best visual, but I'm going to go ahead and get the playoff picture on 538, which again, if you all don't use 538, we are obviously not sponsored by them, but I do think it's a great idea to go look at them. They're a pretty good site. So we're going to go with the AFC first. And in the East, we got the Pats, the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Jets. Obviously, the Jets are already eliminated. The Dolphins are hanging on by a thread, and the Pats and Bills have nearly locked things up. But the division seems to be pretty heavily for the Pats, but that's why when we get to the game this week, this is going to be the game to decide it. If the Patriots win, it's pretty much all but done. But if the Bills win, it's not all but done, but it's getting pretty close. 88-12 is pretty unlikely. And who the Bills got next? Falcons and Jets. You win either of those two games, you pretty much clinch. Even if the Patriots win out, it seems pretty unlikely. Unless you choke to Atlanta, of course, then you don't win. But beating New England and Atlanta pretty much sums it up. And, of course, if the Pats lose or any other sort of crazy stuff happens, they will not win the division. So Patriots-Bills, this game is a pretty colossal game to either team. Got to get that one to get the win off. Patriots, again, 66% chance to win that division. Any thoughts on this?
Obviously, the game today is gonna end up being a huge factor. Me being a Titans fan, I am fully team Bills in this situation. Today, I am a humongous Bills fan. I am an adamant Pittsburgh Steelers fan. And I think I'm going to be a Saints fan for the weekend as well. But we'll see.
Now, I had a wonderful Christmas, but you don't need to taint it by saying things like that, Noah. No need to taint Christmas with that. That kind of talk is not allowed here.
Sorry, that's the coffee talk.
Next up is the absolutely bonkers AFC North. And yeah, this division is pretty gross, but it's insane. So Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, Browns, and pretty much any of these teams still have a chance to playoffs. Obviously, Steelers and Browns are hanging on by a thread, but they aren't dead yet, especially when you go ahead and look at the rest of their schedule. But it's pretty tough because the Browns with Pittsburgh and Cincinnati losing either of these games gets the Browns eliminated. You have to win both. And if they do win both, they're already second best odds in the division because, again, you're playing two divisional opponents. But Kansas City is going to determine a lot of this league because with just that win, look how much that changes. Huge, huge changes here. The Bengals have a great odds to make the playoffs as well, where it's very likely that we're going to see a wild card team in this division. Not in 100% likely, but pretty good odds we see a wild card team here because they're pretty much locked in. Seeing Bills go is pretty high, Colts go is pretty high, but it's still possible that we get a sneak in one from here. But yeah, this division's pretty rough to watch. We saw the Browns lose to the Packers, as we both predicted fairly easily yesterday. And then Bengals and Ravens is a colossal game today for the division. And then Steelers at Kansas City is a big-time game for both those teams too, because, again, the Steelers absolutely have to win. If they lose, then it's pretty low odds for the Steelers to do much this season. But if they win, Steelers are in really good position. So big, big, big game for them. And we'll get to the Kansas City stakes that game later. But yeah, I don't think this division is very competent most of the time. We'll see if you have any thoughts on that too.
The AFC North it's what the AFC North has always been. It's tough football. It's not great football. There's not a whole lot of flash or sizzle, to steal Trent Dilfer's terms, but it is tough grown man football. All of those places are relatively cold this time of year. It's going to be fun to watch how that division plays out. I did want to talk, if you want to just transition into last night's games.
I wanted to just run through this first. You can talk about it, but the deep dive on that, I wanted to wait a bit just for the structure's sake. But
yeah, I mean, as far as the Browns go, I don't see Baker Mayfield really carrying them much further. The way that team has set itself up the rest of the season. Now, against the division, I think they can certainly make things interesting. But I'm looking at the Bengals to come out of this division, as I think everyone is, because their quarterback is the only one that's really, really healthy right now.
Yeah, that's going to be tough for them to really be able to do a lot else here. So I'm not particularly confident in that Browns team, but they still can pull it out. Again, my prediction has gone horrifically awry of them doing much this season, but it's not dead yet. 2 massive games to go. Not dead yet, but we're pretty close. Next up, we have a division that's frequently faced a good amount of ridicule, and rightfully so. But at least this season, they seem to be putting a lot of that to bed. Not all of it, but a good chunk of it, with now 2 teams in the division actually showing a lot of promise of being very solid. Usually it's not, but they've got 2 pretty good teams here. Obviously, the Texans and the Jaguars are both miserable, and we can pretty much forget about those. But the Titans and the Colts have both put together very impressive seasons, especially the Colts, a team that many didn't think were going to really pull it off. Titans had a lot of pieces together. Not particularly shocked they got to double-digit wins this year and are pretty much on their way to the playoffs and on their way to winning the division. In fact, if they beat Miami this week, they pretty much wrap it up anyway, no matter what. So, of course, I know the teams you're cheering for, you want to get higher within the 4 teams that are at the top of the divisions, which make a lot of sense because the Titans still got a pretty good chance to get that. You see that 31%, pretty good odds. And again, Houston's also terrible too. You win that game, and your odds are looking kind of nice. You need the Chiefs to start losing. You need the Patriots to start losing, and you really got a good odds here to go ahead and win it. In fact, if the Titans win out, it's pretty much a 2-man race between them and the Chiefs. And I think it's pretty clear the Chiefs have a much more difficult schedule ahead of them. So that presents itself to quite an interesting situation, even though the Titans are 19% odds here. I think that 19% might be a little lower than we think.
Yeah, and even though I didn't get the result that, I really wanted last night, we control our own destiny. If we win next week, we wrap up the division at home against Miami. I might have to make a trip down to the old Nissan Stadium to watch my Titans clinch the division. And nothing would make this a merrier Christmas and a happier New Year than the news that Derrick Henry is returning from IR.
Would make me happy as a fantasy man. I would enjoy that. Next up, we have the AFC West, a division that frankly, I thought was going to be really, really, really solid this season. Really, though, top to bottom, it's not that bad. I mean, your worst team in the division is the 7-7 Broncos or the 7-7 Raiders, which I think it'd be pretty hard pressed to find someone who thinks either of those teams are bad football teams. I mean, they're not exactly the best, obviously, but both of them have pulled off some pretty impressive wins. Obviously, the Chargers have looked very good this season, and the Chiefs, after sort of a rough start, a little bit of a ish middle, have actually pulled together a pretty strong year and are sitting at 10-4. The Chiefs aren't too worried about anything. With beating Pittsburgh today, actually clinches playoffs, but doesn't quite clinch the division yet. The Chargers still have an incredibly slim but possible way in, but they're pretty much going to need the Chiefs to nearly lose out and have the Chargers win out for that to happen, which, again, as we know, is pretty low odds, but still is possible. So don't have a ton of faith in them pulling that off. But, yeah, overall, this division, I think, is a very strong division. I think we're going to see both the Chiefs and the Chargers make the playoffs. Raiders and Broncos are not quite their year, but still a pretty solid effort from two teams that are clearly still in the building phase.
Yeah, I mean, this division is kind of what we thought the NFC West was going to be at the beginning of the year. It's a solid division, top to bottom. Obviously, the Raiders and Broncos have kind of fizzled out as they deal with a lot of questions from head coaches to quarterbacks to injuries. I mean, those two teams have dealt with a lot this year. But we continue to see the Chargers look really impressive. And obviously, the Chiefs are probably the hottest team in football. It's it has to be either them or the Colts, right? I mean, you can look at the Dolphins, but as far as having prime playoff position, those are the two hottest teams in football to me. And the Chiefs are right at the top there. But we'll have to see, if Big Ben can sort of put together a game today and knock off the hottest team in football.
I did want to add in, just because we got this question on Twitch coming in about, with the Ravens quarterback situation, where do you put the Bengals' chances to make the playoffs, win the division that is? And just to loop back around, we did this before with the baseball question that we got. Always appreciate questions coming in. But I think the Bengals have a pretty good shot in this game. Not to preview the pick early, but I'm riding pretty hard with the Bengals today because I know that we really love what Tyler Huntley brought to the board last week, putting up in a really impressive performance with Lamar Jackson's absence. But I think with all the other COVID issues and then now having your third string quarterback who wasn't really expected to play, I know Josh Johnson has played a little bit, but I feel like this is time for the Bengals to really grip the division, take a big game, and I feel like they have all the pieces to do it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If Lamar's not on the field, it's pretty tough sledding for the Ravens, especially without Marlon Humphrey. I mean, for as bad as the Titans' injury luck has been, I think I've said this on the pod before, the Ravens had the worst injury luck in football because they lost more guys for the season.
Oh, yeah. It's been horrific for them.
Important. Yeah.
It's actually a miracle they're still in a playoff race with this many players out. I mean, I respect that, but I don't think the luck's gonna ride anymore. Next up, we have the division that brings us so much pain, and that is the NFC East. Now, it is a lot less painful than last year. We can definitely say that. This is no longer the most painful division by a long shot because we do have one team that's actually been pretty good, and that's the Cowboys, who have finally gotten their act together, going 10-4. Eagles 7-7 is not too bad either. Washington 6-8 is not the best, but not horrific. And then you have the Giants. So Giants somehow are not actually eliminated yet. With a loss this week at Philly, they will be out. In fact, apparently, even with a win, they're out. So I think pretty much you can say the Giants are out coming in here. In fact, even if the Giants win out, they still or actually maybe they have somewhat of an odds, but I'd say pretty much impossible for the 7-10 best case scenario Giants to make the playoffs. So safely eliminate them. But overall, this division has shown me a few things, and it's shown me that the Cowboys are a legitimate team getting ready to play in big games. I don't think that they're I wouldn't go as far as Super Bowl contenders even with this record, but I think they're going to be a solid team in the playoffs, and they're going to be a tough out. Eagles, shockingly, can still make the playoffs. It's basically a race between them and the Saints to get one of those last seeds, but I'm not really loving a lot of what they've done. They've sort of been back and forth, and even their odds are very dependent even on this week. But all these teams pretty much have just in division games to go. They're only 2 games total in this division. Just these two are out of division. And at least Arizona is going to be tough, but at Chicago might not be too difficult. But it's also the Giants, so we'll see. But yeah, Eagles have still pretty decent odds to make the playoffs, even if they win the next 2. They really need to get that Dallas game down. So this week is just basically a win and stay alive for the Eagles. But is there much of this division that brings you a lot of confidence, even with the Cowboys being good?
Absolutely not. No, this is an extra NFC Easty division because it's not like they're all bad teams on paper, but all of these teams get the boost of getting to play one another twice. So, it kind of provides a boost to the entire division. It's kind of like the AFC East almost, for years, and it's not as much the case this year, but for years, that division the Patriots essentially got a huge boost because they got to beat up on the Bills, the Jets, and the Dolphins twice a year.
It's the AFC South this season. The NFC,
it is the AFC South. The Colts and Titans just getting free wins. Yeah. And I realized that we lost to the Texans, but there's a million reasons why we lost that game.
But you're at 10 wins anyway.
Texans we're at 10 wins and about to make the playoffs. So there's a lot of excuses that could be made for that game. Either way, first off, I refuse to watch the New York Giants. I just don't watch them play football. I just look at my phone, go to another game. Their season does not concern me, and I refuse to talk to anyone else. But we found out this morning. Yep. Daniel Jones and Joe Judge will be back. That is per Adam Schefter. And God, if you're a Giants fan, you got to just be giving up, right?
Hey, but good news. Kadarius Toney is back. Hooray.
Oh, good news. Daniel Jones can't get him the ball.
Yeah, obviously it doesn't matter. You could have Calvin Johnson, Julio Jones, and T.O. on that team, and Jerry Rice on the bench, and you could still wouldn't be able to get more than 200 passing yards. But that team's obviously a disaster. I do feel bad for them a little bit just because it's hard to watch a team not really do anything. But yeah, they're kind of screwed for a bit because basically the only thing they have going for them is pretty good draft picks. So good for that. But now we can talk about the division that will take about 15 seconds to talk about, and that is the NFC North, and mainly because there's sort of not as much going on there because the Bears are done, the Lions are done, the Packers have already totally clinched and have really high odds to get that first overall seed in the NFC, and then the Vikings are sort of hanging on, but not quite done yet, but they got to have some things go their way because you got the Rams this week, which if you win, you got pretty good odds, but if you lose, you're about done. And then you got to play at Green Bay. And I don't think you're winning both those games. And if you do win both those games, basically you're locked for the playoffs, even if you lose to Chicago. But the way the Vikings have been so up and down, especially with the Rams turning the season around now, I just can't see them doing that. So I don't know. I don't really think there's much to say about this division. We know the Lions are terrible. We know the Bears are terrible. We know the Packers are really good. And the Vikings are just kind of a weird team. So, it's very bizarre.
Yeah, I knew the Packers were making the Super Bowl this year. That's all I'm saying.
I still have decent faith that
Aaron Rodgers for MVP. I'm cheering for it.
He's pretty remarkable what he's been able to do this season. We now can move on to my division, which is the NFC South, and that, of course, features the Bucs, Saints, Falcons, and Panthers. The Panthers putting together a truly horrific season. Falcons putting together a okay season based on record, but a really bad season based on the eye test. Saints kind of doing better than we thought, but kind of worse. They're kind of weird. And then the Bucs pretty much doing what everyone thought the Bucs were going to do.
Yeah.
Pretty obviously they ran away with this division, which I don't think anybody thought that they weren't going to run away with this division. I did predict the Falcons would be better this year, so I was right on that. I do think Arthur Smith was a good hire. I think he still is good here. I think there are a lot more games we would have lost if we didn't have him in, so I do appreciate that. But if you're going to chalk up a lot of the season losing, a lot of it is the fact that the defense still cannot hold anyone. The offensive line is one of the worst rated in the league. I know Matt Ryan is aging, but I'm more mad at his contract than I am at him. And again, Calvin Ridley holding out. I know that he's had mental health stuff he's going through, which obviously I'm on his side for that and want him to get better. But it is tough to see a guy that is that much money on the contract list getting hit every week for someone that doesn't play for us, basically. So I get that. I'm not trying to dog him for mental health stuff. I know that's big, but it does have to hurt a little bit when you see a guy taking that much money and not playing football or going to practices or anything. It is a little annoying. So I don't know what's going to happen with us. Obviously, the Falcons' odds to the playoffs are not totally over, but it's pretty much over. If the Falcons lose any of their last 3 games, they're out. But I actually did see that if the Falcons win out and the Saints and the Eagles lose out, which is not impossible, that the Falcons make the playoffs. So there's actually it's actually not over yet. But of course, we could lose to Detroit today and doesn't
still mathematically in it. But all right, I like we
are mathematically in it. But I gotta say, the team that's really been really bad this year is again the Panthers. Been sort of. I mean, I knew no one really had a lot of faith in them, but like, wow, they've done nothing. And I get they had that short undefeated start to the season that we all knew was going to fall apart. But like, I just wanted to say that not to dog on a divisional opponent, but like, wow, the Panthers have not been good. So
Jimmy G's going to the Panthers next year. Bookmark it.
Could be an interesting move. I'd like to see that just for the sake of fun. Question is who would go to the Niners because Trey Lance, I forgot that he's on the team. So there you go. We finally have the NFC West last up here. And this has been a division that we all knew was going to be really strong and has pretty much been almost all strong. But the Rams have been really solid this year. I thought they were going to be really good. I picked them to be in the NFC Championship game preseason, so it looks like those odds are pretty good still. Cardinals have obviously overperformed. I knew that we liked them preseason somewhat. I actually wasn't as huge on them preseason, but they've kind of fallen apart recently. The last few weeks of the Cardinals have been horrible. But they've had a really good season overall. They're pretty much going to make the playoffs anyway. And then the 49ers have put together a good season again, bouncing back from a down year last year after their Super Bowl runner-up season a couple years ago, and are looking pretty good odds to make the playoffs, especially against Houston this week, where if they win, it eliminates the Seahawks and puts the Niners basically eliminates the Seahawks. But you still got to get past the Rams. So that will be a tricky endeavor for the Niners to do. So yeah, this division, I don't really know what else to sort of add about it. It's a really good division. We've known it's been good. Rams, Cardinals, Niners can beat a lot of teams in football right now. And top to bottom, it's probably one of the strongest. Even the Seahawks at the bottom are obviously not the worst team. I think it's clear to say that even the Raiders or the Broncos are better. I know they're a couple games up, at least on paper. But for being the worst team in this division, the Seahawks could be a lot worse.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what the Seahawks do today. That's a game that I'm really looking at.
Yeah.
I think there's an edge to bet it for sure. I'm looking for that edge right now, which is why haven't been chiming in quite as much. But
very good.
I don't know. The Cardinals seem like they're falling apart to me.
They're slipping.
We can talk about the game from last night, but that team has not been the same since they started getting hurt. And obviously DeAndre Hopkins and J.J. Watt are 2 big players that they have out. I think they can still be competitive, but without DeAndre Hopkins, they just don't have that go-to guy in the receiving core that Kyler can just chuck it up to. When teams start blitzing him, because that's what they're doing now is they're trying to pressure Kyler. They're trying to get him out of his reads. And they're trying to make other guys make a play, which we haven't necessarily seen as much without DeAndre Hopkins on the field.
And just to run it back down again so we can wrap this up, AFC wildcard, Colts 98%, Bills 75%, Chargers 74%, be your 3 spots there as you were 5, 6, 7. And then the NFC, you have the Cardinals at over 99%, the Niners at 69%, and the Saints at 49%. Then in the hunt, Ravens at 48%, Eagles 41%, Vikings 29%, and then essentially done. I basically just put this of anyone below 20% odds. Steelers, Browns, Washington, Dolphins, Raiders, Broncos, Falcons, and then Seahawks and Panthers are below a point of a percent, basically. Texans, Jags, Lions, Jets, and Bears are all of your teams out in that order. So that is your look at the playoff. We can now move on to our Week 16 recap we have so far, which is pretty short. We only got 2 games, which are the 2 games we've had over Christmas. And that is going to start off, of course, with the Cleveland Browns up against the Green Bay Packers. What was a pretty interesting game here. And I think we now can – I mean, I know we sort of solidified this before, but it's pretty obvious now that that Aaron Rodgers is the greatest quarterback of all time to play for Green Bay. I think that's pretty clear.
100%.
And I know we kind of knew that was the case, but now it's like extremely the case. But yeah, Baker was absolutely horrific in this game. 4 first-half picks. Chubb was actually pretty good on the ground. And the Rodgers-Adams connection, again, is great. 10 receptions, 114 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Devontae Adams. So pretty solid there. Green Bay is establishing themselves as the best team in football right now, and clearly the best team in the NFC at the moment. Again, 88% chance to get that 1 seed. So this game at least proved to me that the Browns are still not ready at all to be legit, and the Packers are a team that really everyone should be afraid of. Though, again, it's still the Packers getting ready to the playoffs. I know it's been a very long decade since they touched that Super Bowl trophy, but it's just it's really hard, even though every logical brain in my body says I should trust the Packers. They're a really solid team here. But I still think, I don't know. It's still the Packers. And it's still, even if they're this good in the regular season, it's still the regular season. So that to me is where that may just be past demons talking to me, but I'm not sure.
I just don't understand how you watch Baker Mayfield and you go, this is the guy. I know he's been hurt this year. I think he's capable of playing better. But the point is that he's not going to be able to carry your team. And at some point during the season, it happens for every quarterback. Your quarterback has to be able to carry your team, whether that's for one drive or whether that's for an entire game when some of your best players are out behind a banged-up offensive line against the Packers. The fact of the matter is that Cleveland averaged 8.8 yards carry against the Green Bay Packers. Baker Mayfield then went out and threw a bunch of interceptions. They can't trust him with the ball in their hands. And I think that was my ultimate takeaway from the Browns game last night was, okay, this thing might be cooked. And I mean, he's better than just a question mark at quarterback, but we've seen these performances time and time again. And now Odell Beckham Jr. is scoring touchdowns in LA while Baker Mayfield is throwing interceptions in the red zone. So something has to give here as far as the Browns and Baker Mayfield are concerned. Because I don't think he's ever going to take them to that next level that they really need to be successful, especially in this division and against Super Bowl contending teams like the Packers. Now, that being said, should they make the playoffs, can they be a threat? Yes. Are they a legitimate threat? I'm not sure, because at some point you're going to have to give the ball to Baker Mayfield, and he's going to have to not throw interceptions in the most important moments of the game. I realize that's not like the most analytical take in the world. But we've seen this over and over again. I mean, it's going in the wrong direction for Cleveland. I think is the main takeaway.
It's not adding up as much as it should, and you can go ahead and we can actually look at this next game when you want to talk about adding it up. Is Indianapolis up against Arizona in the desert, and this is the one game we disagreed on here because we both agreed on Green Bay, which I think was a pretty safe pick there. We obviously saw what happened in that game, so good on us for seeing that coming. But I stuck with the Colts, even though I was really hesitant on them even before the game started with Quentin Nelson being out. I mean, their offensive line was shredded in this game. But they won, and they won pretty solidly. And yeah, Taylor struggled in the first half, didn't do as great. He did never score in this game, but he still got over 100 yards and almost 30 carries. And Indianapolis is undefeated when he goes for over 100 yards and is winless when he doesn't. So if you want to talk about MVP, I know I can't say the Colts, but if you want to talk about MVP, he has a case. Because if you're talking about who is the most valuable to whatever team, and you talk about team success, that's pretty big up there. This team is lost, confused, and winless without him, and they are undefeated and one of the best teams in the league if they have him. And so even in a game where he doesn't really show up as big, they still take down Arizona, and I get they've been slipping a bit. But this loss was almost more concerning than the Lions one, even because the Lions was a stupid fluke game. But this game was actually you get back at home, you get to reset, you play a team that's been surging well, but they have all these injuries and COVID stuff going on. This is your chance to bounce back and make a statement, and they just sort of fell flat. I mean, this is 3 weeks in a row that Arizona's had a chance to clinch the playoffs, and they failed. And yeah, Indianapolis 6-1 and 3-0 in the last few games. Arizona's 3-5 since a 7-0 start, and 3-4 at home, which that's their big reason. I said the Cardinals cannot win at home. I don't know what their problem is. They are amazing on the road, 7-1. This team is a fantastic road team, but they're terrible at home, and it looked like that just kept going on. And yeah, Indy is looking like a really dangerous team right now. I'm not saying they're going to go it all and win, but they're a 9-6 team, 5-2 on the road, and they can really, really deliver some big-time punches to big-time teams. And I've liked what they put together here. And the Raiders and Jags, their last two teams, 2 games they should win pretty solidly, and that could have them at 11-6.
I would like to state for the record that I am unconcerned still with the Indianapolis Colts. I am in the exact same seat that I was in preseason with Indy.
Still?
Yeah, still.
There's no
Why?
way that you thought they were going to be 9-6 at this point.
Why? I don't care what their win-loss is. In the most important moment of the season, Carson Wentz is going to do something dumb, and they're going to lose the game.
But they won this game, and they beat the Pats, 2 teams they shouldn't have beaten. And they beat them both convincingly.
At some point in the playoffs, Carson Wentz is going to do something dumb and cost his team the game. I'm unconcerned with Indy in the playoffs because Carson Wentz is not clutch. When they have a lead and they can just run Jonathan Taylor down your throat, which Derrick Henry is better, by the way. When they have a lead, they can run Jonathan Taylor down your throat. They're a fine team. They are a good team. When they are playing from behind and they have to lean on Carson Wentz in the most important moments, he is going to do something dumb. He's still Carson Wentz.
But you have to admit he had a good game.
He had a fine game. They didn't really pressure him a whole lot. He was able to throw the ball very cleanly.
Okay,
when
his last touchdown
a team, that was an impressive
Did you
throw.
see that? Okay, I did
see that throw.
Okay. I was
All
hoping
I'm saying is that when the pressure's on in a big moment in the playoffs, they're going to need Carson Wentz to make a throw like that. And I don't think he's got the juice. I think he's going to do something dumb in crunch time eventually. And I am unconcerned with the Indianapolis
I guess
Colts.
we'll find out. We're going to have to wait
Because
for that.
once Derrick Henry comes back, we're going to see who the real rushing king of the NFL is.
Again, no, I've had him in fantasy. I've missed him just as maybe not just as much, but I've missed him a lot. Missed him a lot for fantasy. Yeah, of course, the one league where I'm the 1 seed in and I had to buy, I'm going to lose in the first round. And the other league where I just missed the playoffs because I lost 5 games in a row, I am going to beat my opponent and probably end up winning the loser's bracket. So it happens every time. I always win the loser's bracket. I always lose the winner's bracket. I'm determined to always be right in the middle. But we have our last section up here, and this is one that's always a lot of fun. It is our preview and picks. So this week we're going to have it split because, of course, we have a little bit off here. So Noah is sitting at 138 wins, 79 losses, and 1 tie, and I'm at 143 wins, 74 losses, and 1 tie. which I gotta say, shout out us because those are pretty good records. I'm impressed with
And
that.
I need to grab a phone charger right quick. I'll be
Oh,
right
good.
back.
I can just talk about this for a second, but yeah, pretty good overall in the season for us. We usually do pretty well in NFL compared to college, though we also do well in college. Neither of us have ever really gotten particularly close to a losing record on these, which is awesome. But at least so far this week, again, like we mentioned, Noah is 2-1. I'm 3-0. So a good start, at least for me there. And again, 2-1 is pretty solid as well. So we love to see it. We both have the Titans, and then we both have the Packers, and I had Colts and he had Cards. So that is our record through the first 3 games. But we got a whole lot left. Again, there are no teams that are out due to any kind of bye weeks or anything. So we are going to have a full slate ahead of us, which is going to start at 1 p.m. coming up in the next couple of hours. My time, noon Central. And the first game up here is the game that I will be attending today. My first NFL game I will be going to in the city, the great city of Atlanta, since 2017, and my first NFL game in a couple of years. And that's going to be the Detroit Lions going to the Atlanta Falcons. It's pretty heinous, but I am going. Did get tickets. I am going to the Buffalo Bills Falcons game in Buffalo next week, which it's supposed to be 30 degrees and snowing the whole time. So I probably will get to be able to see a Snow Bowl game, but it might kill me doing that. So I don't know what's going to be harder to deal with, Falcons Lions or 30 degrees in the snow. But either way, it's going to be a pretty cool time. Detroit, Atlanta, I'm going to go with the Falcons here. Detroit is already awful. We know they had a big win last week, but the big reason why they won that game was Jared Goff, who is confirmed to be out for this game. So I don't really have much faith in Detroit here. Again, if the Falcons lose, they're eliminated from the playoffs. Detroit has absolutely nothing to play for. I think Atlanta will try enough to beat the Lions. I hope so. But this game, they should win. Pretty confident that the line in this game is Atlanta by 7. And I think they could cover, again, with Goff out, I think they could cover that. Though I do think it is possible that DeAndre Swift could return for this game, which wouldn't make me think they're going to win, but they could maybe cover if he comes in. So I'll go ahead and look for that as you go ahead with your pick. But he may be able to do that. So Jamal Williams and Craig Reynolds would likely be the backs, or will be the backs if he doesn't play. So I'll look into that.
It's been a nice little stretch for the Lions. I'm going to go with the Falcons, though. Lions give up more yards per attempt than anyone in the league as far as passing is concerned. And I think Matt Ryan's going to turn back the clock a little bit today. Make some Atlanta bettors happy. So I
hope so.
I'm riding with the Falcons today.
Next, we have Baltimore up against Cincinnati in a battle of the sad Midwest cities, or Northeast, or wherever you classify Baltimore as, Atlantic, I guess. And this game is going to be in Cincy. Bengals have a huge game here. They really, really need to win this one to get it and clinch everything up. I did actually want to say one thing kind of bizarre here. I forgot to mention this about Falcons-Lions. This is crazy. So again, Lions 2-11-1, Atlanta 6-8. The Falcons have won 0 games at Mercedes-Benz Stadium this year. The Lions have won 0 games on the road. Yeah, the Falcons are 1-0 in London, 0-5 at home, and that London game counted as a home game. Lions are 0-6-1 on the road. So just a side note, kind of insane that neither of these teams, someone's going to be making at least big news for themselves the year. But again, back to Baltimore Cincy. Cincy is favored by a full touchdown in this game, and honestly, I understand why. It's because pretty much a lot of folks are out for Baltimore, as we talked about. Lamar Jackson's out, and Tyler Huntley stepped up big time last week. But then he got COVID too, so he's out. So with the third-string quarterback coming in, I just don't believe in the Bengals today. Or sorry, I don't believe in the Ravens today. I think the Bengals are going to pull it out and get a massive win here.
So what are we looking at? Bengals at home against the Ravens. Look at that. Cincinnati is 2-5 as a home favorite. Now that is 2 wins. To hang your hat.
But what quarterback were they playing though? They weren't playing Josh Johnson.
Great question.
Third string.
Look, their average margin of victory, they're averaging losing these games by 10-ish points. Their plus minus against the spread 3.2. So I'm not sure they're going to cover. I do think they win though.
Yeah, I don't trust that. I don't trust that. I've Cincy in this game. We now
they're not great at home. That's the thing.
I can't. They have to win this game, and
You're right.
don't.
Baltimore's bad on the road. I'm gonna take it there.
I don't.
Put a
No,
cap
that
on
spread
that.
is too far.
Cincinnati. I'm not betting the Bengals. Trust me, I will not bet the Bengals today.
We now have a game that could also be pretty interesting here. Rams and the Vikings. The Vikings have been one of the most, I guess, inconsistent teams. They've been actually really good at home, 4-2, but the Rams have been even better on the road, 5-2. Two teams that, again, have been very strange, but the Rams have really put their act together so far. They've won 3 in a row, which is against the Jags, which, okay. And then the Cardinals, which was bigger when they did it. And then Seattle, which was a pretty solid win last week, even though the refs certainly helped them a lot out. And Minnesota, kind of the same thing, where they lost a couple of bad games and then rattled off a couple of good wins. So both these teams are coming in actually pretty hot. But I'm still going to go with the Rams. They actually get back, or maybe not get back, but they may get back Cam Akers for their next game, which I kind of forgot about Cam Akers because he had his Achilles tear, I think Achilles or ACL, I'm not sure which one, it torn. So he's been out for the entire season. I don't think he'll be back today, but I don't really think it matters. I think the Rams are a much better team here. I get that going on the road in Minnesota is difficult. There's a reason why the Rams are only up by 3 here, but whenever you see a road team being favored, I think that speaks a lot. And I think the Rams are just a better team. The Vikings are very inconsistent, and whenever they play a team that is really, really solid, it's very unlikely they win. The one time they did that was a little bit of an outlier was the Packers, but that was about a month ago. So I don't really know any big names that are out due to COVID for this game. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not really sure who is big that's out. I don't really know anybody that's really big for either of these teams, but Adam Thielen should play. They said Adam Thielen could play, but he's coming off an injury. His ankle isn't quite right yet. But I don't know. I still trust the Rams in this game to get it done.
I'm going with the Rams too. I think the Vikings are a sinking ship.
And Dalvin Cook being out due to COVID doesn't help any case for Vikings either.
Not at all, especially when you're going to have to let Kirk Cousins throw against Aaron Donald. I'm not riding with Kirk Cousins in this game. I'm hitting the Rams pretty hard.
We now have a battle of the AFC hopefuls to win out that division, and I'm actually kind of surprised about the grade on this game purely due to the fact this game was just so tight. It's only a 1-point spread. This is about the biggest toss-up game of the entire weekend, if you can call it that. And it's Buffalo against New England. It's going to be in Foxborough. So New England, of course, is hosting, but they haven't been very good at home. New England only 3-4 at home, despite a 9-5 record. And the Bills, a pretty solid 4-3. They're both 4-3 at home and 4-3 on the road. So pretty even for them. But I'm rolling with the Bills in this game. I think they're the better team overall. I think it's pretty clear that despite Mac Jones' solid season, that Allen has done much better than him. I'm not going to go on a rant on this, but I do think that it is absolutely absurd that Lamar Jackson got the Pro Bowl nod over Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen is better in pretty much every single quarterback statistic except for rushing. And even then, he's been really good. So I don't get that. But Stephon Diggs has had a great year. Unfortunately for the Bills, Gabriel Davis, after having a really good week last week, is out with COVID, so he won't play. But Emmanuel Sanders will be set to step up. I have him starting on my fantasy team because I have no one left. So really hope Emmanuel Sanders goes off this week, but I don't have anyone left. So we're just sort of rolling with it. But we'll see how that goes. But Damian Harris, I'm pretty sure, is reported to play today, running back for New England. So that will be a boost for that offense. But I'm going to go with the Bills. A 1-point spread is toss-up, and I think that's going to be the game. This is going to be a fourth quarter, 2-minute drill kind of game.
I'm all over the Bills in this game, not just because I need the Patriots to lose for the Titans' sake, but because I think there is an element of revenge here. I think the Patriots really got them in the last game. We know Buffalo can't really run the ball. They still tried to throw the ball a ton in that last game. But I think this game's going to be a little different. I think the Bills are going to be a little bit more out for blood. And I don't know if Mac Jones is going to be able to keep up with the high-flying shenanigans that the Buffalo Bills can pull today.
We now have the game that is truly with the epitome of what we like to call the Tank Bowl, because this one is actually worse than the Falcons and the Lions, and that is the
Yes.
Jacksonville Jaguars against the New York Jets. And I still don't know why they scheduled this game. That was mean to do that. Bad NFL for making us watch this game, or at least making this game exist. Even if we don't have to watch it, this game does indeed exist, and we cannot stop it from existing. So 2-12 Jags are 0-6 on the road. The 3-11 Jets are actually kind of surprisingly 2-5 at home, which really isn't that heinous considering it's 3-11 overall. But I'm going to roll with the Jets in this game, and I hate picking either of these teams. But the reason why I'm over the Jets is partially an angry pick because I picked the Jags last week and they blew it for me, and also because Miles Jack is out for Jacksonville. One of their 5 actually good players is out for this game, which has a lot of confidence towards the Jets simply because they only have a very small handful of decent players, and him being out still worries me. Also, the fact they don't have a head coach, basically, I get Urban Meyer didn't really help with that, but it basically wasn't really a head coach anyway, but now they really don't have a head coach. But yeah, neither of these teams is really good at all. It's been a pretty embarrassing last few weeks for both. There's not a ton to add in here. The only difference that I can find within recent games is that they both played Houston recently, and the Jags lost by 2 touchdowns, and the Jets won by a touchdown. So there's that. There's no winner in this game. Nobody wins in this game. We're just picking teams because we got to pick, and also we agreed on a bunch, so I've had to find one to disagree on, and no one's going to watch this game anyway, so.
Yes, and
go Jets, go.
I would like to also state for the record that the Jaguars are 0-6 on the road.
Yeah, and another reason why I'll go with the Jets here, even though, again,
I'm not going to spend any more time on this game than is necessary. We're going with the Jets here.
I don't trust that.
Next up, can we not talk? I don't want to talk about this game.
Okay, fine.
Jake Fromm.
We'll make it quick. Make it quick.
Jake Fromm is making his first NFL start. You know what that means, Jack. This is the Eagles versus the Giants. I will not be watching this game, but you already know too much of this game is going to be on Red Zone. You already know at least 75% of Red Zone because they love the Giants for some reason.
We don't know why. They do.
We don't know why. No, I do know why, and it's
New York.
Money and ratings, and it's
the New Jersey Giants. The Meadowlands Giants will be going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. And this game is, again, terrible. But here's the thing, though. The reason why I'm happy I'm going to the Falcons game is not because I get to see the Falcons or Lions play. It's because I don't get to watch this game and I don't get to watch Jets Jags. It's 2 terrible games I get to miss. 2.
Because, like I said, they're going to show every second of this game on Red Zone.
Oh, yeah. Philly.
And everyone's going to be like, get this off my screen. Giants are 1-6 on the road going into Philly today, who still has a shot to make the playoffs. Trotting out Jake Fromm with this banged up half of an offense. I'm going with Philly today.
Oh, Philly sucks at home, by the way. They're not a good home team, and I don't care. I'm still picking Philly.
Oh yeah, no,
it doesn't matter.
100% pick Philly. I think the plus 11. No, I'm not gonna. Should I go with plus 11? I might just not bet.
Okay, well, here's a game.
That's a sicko play.
Here's a game that actually is a very similar play to that, but maybe a little bit better of an idea to do, and that's Tampa Bay against Carolina. Now, this game is a battle of 2 teams that absolutely blew chunks a few years ago in the NFC, but both are basically whenever one of these teams is good, the other sucks. That's what I'm convinced. Whenever one is good, the other is god awful. In 2015, the Panthers were one of the best teams in football. The Bucs were an afterthought, and now it's basically reversed. So these teams are ultimately inverted, and this game is going to be really bad. It's at Carolina. Tampa Bay comes into this game. The spread's 10.5. What I've seen on here, I might take that. And I get the Bucs lost their last game 9-0. I get that was bad, but we also are very aware that the Saints own regular season Tom Brady. That's not a question. The Saints own regular season Tom Brady.
Yeah, but they're favored by 10.5 points. Now, I don't know if the Bucs with half their team and Tom Brady should be favored by 10.5 over.
But the Panthers are really bad.
The Panthers are really bad, but I think this might be a lower scoring game than you would think. The current over-under is 44. I don't know where I stand on that. It opened at 48.5, and obviously if you got it at 48.5, good for you. I think
I'll
we're
be
both
absolutely like.
I think we could both pretty
no way.
confidently say that the Bucs are going to win this game, though.
Oh,
I don't think the Panthers have a chance to win, but
without a doubt,
covering the spread is the more interesting part there. But let's move on to the Chargers versus the Texans. We've seen the Texans make a couple of these games frisky. It's a 10.5-point spread. Do we really trust the Chargers? I'm going to go with yes.
Even with Mike Williams out, Jalen Guyton out, Derwin James still questionable, Parham on the injury reserve, which, God, and bless him, I saw that hit he had with his neck. I nearly killed him, it was insane. And Eckler out. So much of this offense is out this game, and I'm not worried because the Texans have about 5 good players on their teams, and 2 of them are Kyami Fairburn and Brandon Cooks. Both are out. The Chargers are winning this game by a lot. That's 2 of their best players gone. They're not winning this game. They're not even going to get close. And David Johnson's confirmed to be out too. They're not winning this game.
No, they've had a few wins against the spread. Overall, they're pretty bad against the spread.
And I get they beat up on the Jags last week, but I think we can say pretty obviously the Chargers are significantally better than the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I don't think this will be a very close game.
I'm with
Next,
you
we have another sicko game up there. There are a lot of just heinous games this weekend, but we have
this is the one to bet on, though. This is the one to bet on.
Yes, Bears, Seahawks. This is in Seattle. Battle of the 2 teams that have brought me lots of pain. The Bears in this game. Oh boy. Okay, this is even just to let you know. This is the AP article with this game. This is the title of the article. Seahawks host Bears facing likelihood of meaningless games. Like, even they're telling you, don't watch this game. Don't put it on. Don't bother with it. It's a 4:05 game, Eastern time, 3:05 Central. And yeah, this game is going to be pretty tough for the eyes, but Seattle is favored by 7, at least what I see on ESPN. Both these teams are coming off losses. Chicago have lost 4 of their last 5. Seattle has only lost 3 of their last 5 and actually won 2 of their last 3. So they've been on a pretty decent streak, beating the Niners, beating the Texans, and losing to the Rams with help from the refs. But also, I mean, it's the Rams, so it's not a bad loss. But yeah, I think pretty obviously Seattle should win this game, but it may be a little tighter than we think just because it's Seattle in 2021, which, by the way, this is the first losing season Seattle's had since 2011 with their 9th loss last week. It's pretty remarkable.
Goodness.
Pretty remarkable. Yeah. What a run.
I don't know where to go in this game. I've been trying to figure out which side I want to lean on here, because it's really unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Both of these teams should be able to lose this game at once. I think I'm going to have to go with Chicago against the spread, that is. I still want to take Seattle in the game. I'm still going to put that as far as pick 'em, but I really, really want to take Chicago with the spread. 6.5, even at home for Seattle. Nope. You know what? I'm going the other way. I'm going Seattle minus 6.5. That's going to be my bet of the day. Chicago is terrible as an underdog on the road. Their margin of victory, I think, is like outside the spread. Let me look at this really quickly. Oh yeah, here we go. Chicago's average margin of victory on the road, where they are 1-5 as an away underdog, is 13.5. The spread is only 6.5. Get it while you can before game time here. But Chicago gonna get a pretty bad rap. Gonna get a pretty bad rap today. I think this might be. I mean, we say this every week. This might be the engraving on Nagy's tombstone today. Get you Seattle minus 6.5.
Yeah, this is going to be a rough game for everyone. Next up, we have a game that is a little bit interesting in terms of what the spread is, because this is actually 10.5 for Kansas City going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, this game is in Arrowhead. It's a 425 game. Tyreek Hill is in, and Travis Kelce is out. That is your stance for players here. Mahomes is in, good to go. Edwards-Helaire is good to go. And then most of the team for the Steelers is going to be fine. There are a few guys of note that are going to be out, but not anything too massive. But I'm still rolling with the Chiefs here. I get that getting Travis Kelce out's a big blow, but getting Hill in is massive. If they have both those guys out, I might be wavering a little bit, but there's still a reason why this team is so heavily favored, even with those guys out. So I don't know. I really think that's going to be good. I think that still is respectable. I don't know. It's really difficult for me to sit there and still pick against the Chiefs, even with this many guys talented coming in here. So, well, I did see an update too. Quarterback coach Mike Kafka, running back coach Greg Lewis, and assistant offensive lineman coach Corey Mathai will not be coaching today for the Chiefs due to COVID protocols. That came out about 3 minutes ago. So that came out there, but I still don't think they're going to lose this game. I still don't think they're going to lose. So I still think they're going to win this game.
I'm rolling with the Steelers here. No Travis Kelce. The Steelers have been able to force a lot of turnovers this year. And what's the one sort of thorn in the side of this Kansas City offense is when they can't just get the ball down to Travis Kelce. They like to turn it over a little bit. It's been kind of their Achilles heel so far. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh today, not just because I'd like it for the Titans' sake, but because I actually think they've got a decent shot. That being said, I'm going against the trends because Pittsburgh 2-6 on the road as a road dog. Kansas City 6-2 as a home favorite this year, but I'm going against the grain here.
Could be an interesting matchup. I'm excited to see that game come out. But yeah, there's no way Kansas City will cover that game no matter what. But plus 10.5 still is pretty bold. And next we have another game that goes on out west, and that is going to be between the Denver Broncos and the Las Vegas Raiders. Two teams that are struggling to hang on for playoff hopes, and pretty much for good reason. These two squads are not looking particularly great when it comes to playoffs, but they're still alive. They're still here, and we'll see how they end up doing because I still think Denver's going to pull this game off, and I think they're going to do it because they're just the better team here. I get winning in Vegas has been an interesting trend for them. I'm actually going to look up and see the who's been better where. But again, both these teams are 7-7. Raiders are slightly worse at home, 3-4 compared to Denver's 3-3 on the road. So pretty tough odds for either team coming into this game, but I just think it's better for Denver here. Darren Waller out still going to hurt the Raiders, though I do have Moreau on my fantasy team, so I really hope he goes off. But the spread in this game, I think it's actually even right now. At least on ESPN it says even. This is definitely a toss-up game, but I'm going to roll with Denver.
I'm rolling with Denver too. Not really a believer in this Raiders team anymore. We've covered a lot on the pod. But I'll tell you who I am a believer in. I'm a believer in the Dallas Cowboys.
This team has been pretty good last week. I mean, I mentioned that 10-4, they've looked very solid this season. I think they're a lot better than Washington, who's the team they're facing often when they host Sunday Night Football tonight. Tickets are shockingly cheap for this game, which is pretty funny. For a divisional game in Arlington, I feel like that's usually pretty bad. But it's also Dallas by 9. There are a lot of big spreads this weekend, and I think that's going to stay true. Antonio Gibson and Curtis Samuel both questionable for this game. Not sure if they'll be it or not. Tyron Smith, I know, is out still, offensive line. But, yeah, I still have a lot of faith in Dallas in this game. I think they'll come out and play great. They've won their last 3 in a row after struggling a little bit. And Washington, after rattling off a few wins, has now lost 2 in a row. In fact, the last time they played Dallas was a 27-20 victory for the Cowboys. So, I have a lot of faith in Dallas in this game. I think they'll come out and put up a pretty strong show. Cowboys can win this game. And with winning that, I think it would be done for the divisional race. I'm pretty sure. Yes, if they win, they will win the division. it will be all locked up and over.
Yeah,
And finally,
Cowboys here.
And finally, we have up, as we near an hour on our pod here today, the Miami Dolphins against the New Orleans Saints on Monday Night Football. And now, not only, obviously, I want Miami to win just because screw the Saints, but also I do think they are the better team here. Now, they are 2-4 on the road, but the Saints are 2-4 at home. They're both 7-7 overall. These teams are actually, at least on paper, really similar. But the big news here is that the Saints have a good amount of guys on the COVID list, including both Taysom Hill and Trevor Siemian.
Jack, I got 2 words for you.
What is that?
Ian Book, baby. That's a third word. Ian Book is the starting quarterback for the Saints in this game. I think you can tell where I'm going to lean as far as the winner of this particular ball game.
So here's a list. Juwan Johnson, Adam Trautman, Taysom Hill, Trevor Siemian, Malcolm Jenkins, Jeff Heath, Jordan Mills, James Carpenter, Christian Ringo, Jalen Holmes, Caden Ellis, JT Gray, Ryan Ramczyk, Dwayne Washington, DeMarco Davis, and Carl Granderson. 16 guys on the COVID list for the Saints.
Is that a lot? Is that a lot?
16!
Is that important?
I mean, we know we talked about the Ravens, but obviously nobody cares if the Saints have a misfortune. But yeah, this is pretty bad for the Saints. Obviously, I don't want the players to get sick, and I do hope they get better soon. But it is very helpful that there are players out for the Saints this week. And Miami surging. They've had a really good last few weeks. They are full of wins across the board. I get they haven't played the best opponents, but they have played pretty well against their not as good opponents. So I think they'll come out these games and win. New Orleans, their last 2 wins at the Jets barely counts because the Jets are way worse than the Dolphins. Then the Bucs basically doesn't count because New Orleans always beats Tampa Bay and Tom Brady for some unknown reason. So this game is not Tom Brady, so I have more faith in Miami, which sounds weird to say, but I think it actually makes some sense. So I'm going to go with Miami in this game, and I think that is going to be all for us from this week's episode.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening. I'm going with the Dolphins as well, even though I didn't make that clear. Thanks so much for listening. Once again, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your Christmas weekend. Enjoy the games, bet responsibly. And for now, I'm Noah Parker.
And I'm Jack Wallace. Peace out, y'all.